Hey, CoMuse. Hi. Hi, CoMuse. Hey. Just wait for a few more people to come in here. Hi. Good evening. I hope everyone is doing well. Good evening. Thank you for joining. Good evening. Good evening. Thank you for joining. For those of you who don't know me, I am CoMuse's head of digital and community. Thank you for joining. How's everyone doing? How are you feeling? How's everyone's mental doing with all of this going on in the world this past weekend? Let's see. I see your request to join. Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Hello. Good evening.
Hello, good afternoon.
Oh, good afternoon in your time, right? Yeah.
I don't know, are you able to see me right now?
No, I can't see you. I can hear you loud and clear. I can see you. Hi. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So let's just get right into it. Don't want to waste any time. Well, first of all, how are you? For everybody that is joining us today, this is Tyrone Barnes. He is a certified music therapist and also a business owner for People's Music Therapy. So I'll let you say a few things about yourself first. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, for sure. It's like the first sunny day here in a little while, so it's good
That's
to
what
see
we're
some. Is it Nicole?
Yes. So I'm Nicole. I work for CoMuse here. I am the head of digital and community here at CoMuse. We are a global mindful business community serving music and tech industry.
All right, okay. Nice to meet you. So, thanks Nicole for the introduction. My name's Tyrone. I started People's Music Therapy about 2 years ago, and I started hiring some staff about a year ago, and now we offer music therapy to basically people in the greater Vancouver area, but ever since the pandemic came around, the Zoom sessions, the online telehealth has kind of opened that door a little bit. So we don't really have any, we have less obstacles today than we used to have, but I think the in-person is a experience that a lot of people are missing out on, so I do encourage everyone to try and, push themselves to do in-person as much as they can these days.
That's interesting that you say that. One thing I really wanted to ask you was how has the pandemic really affected your business?
Well, we sort of got started in a serious way while the pandemic was in its probably fourth month, at least here in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of the systems and operations and ideas that we had were very much based in the present time. So, we were doing like an in-home model because we were a a demographic that could keep working while people were still at home. So we would try and visit homes. You know, we tried to figure out how to use Zoom, how to do online health. So actually right now is probably one of the biggest changes that we're going through, which is we're trying to find a studio space. We're trying to invite people to our space. And yeah, it's it's a new growing period for us.
Right, I can imagine. Um, so that's really interesting. I want to ask you also, what was the deciding factor for you in deciding to, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay. What was the deciding factor for you in deciding to become a music therapist and like open up this business to help?
Well, maybe other therapists feel this way, but I think like when I was young, you know, I also dealt with mental health concerns, and I had a lot of drama in my young life, and I think, you know, that really had an impact on what I became as an adult. You know, I didn't think that at that time I had a lot of resources, and instead of finding people, I found my grandfather's guitar. And so I broke a lot of strings trying to learn how to use it, and I knocked on a lot of doors trying to find a teacher. But, you know, after a few years, I figured out, you know, that music could be a great resource for myself. And as I became a teen and I decided that like music would be my entire life, I started to share that with other people, and I came across just some really healing experiences for myself, and, you know, experiences that other people would say, oh, that was, you know, that was really beautiful. And I'd say, oh, and then I had a teacher finally say, oh, you should do music therapy. So one thing led to another, and yeah, here I am today.
Well, that's really great. I'm wondering, so how does your approach that you have, your techniques, your approach differ between your clients? Say if you're serving someone who is at-risk youth, how does your approach differ to serve somebody who may have dementia?
For sure. So kind of as I've been practicing as a therapist, I've been practicing now for 6 years. I've sort of tried to keep an open mind because I noticed that, you know, there's a lot of change in the field these days. And the stuff that I learned in university was rooted more in a psychoanalytic approach, you know, maybe a little bit more European or Freudian. The teachers were, of course, my professors were, I guess, from a generation where that was a little bit more popular. And I think that I don't want to discredit that approach, because I think working that way with a lot of people is very important, especially people from that culture or that age group. But once I graduated, I found like harm reduction to be a very strong approach. You know, working with people, meeting them where they're at. I found there was less obstacles. And now I'm sort of more exploring this intersectional approach, which is just understanding how different barriers affect different people, and just trying to tailor kind of our practice to kind of meet people or serve people better if they couldn't regularly find therapy or whatever might be affecting them.
Do you have like a favorite technique or a technique that you think is the most effective one?
Oh, that's a little tough, but I do have one in mind that's like a favorite of mine, because it doesn't require very much on behalf of the person I'm working with, and that's hip hop. I can't rap and I can't really make beats, but I'm really good at ripping YouTube videos off the internet and providing the technology to record. And I think a lot of my early practice, the reason I bring this up is because my early practice started with a lot of youth, incarcerated youth actually. So I would go to, there's a jail here in BC that I would visit. I'd bring my speakers, my computer, and a microphone, and, you know, youth that would otherwise not want to engage in therapy or might be reluctant for you know, very good reason or defensive reasons, they would be open to checking out hip hop, and they would be open to writing bars. And so I found that for that group of people, inspiring them to write hip hop, which is really just a form of poetry about writing about your own history
Right.
was really profound. And of course, that intervention isn't as strong for, you know, people that didn't grow up with hip hop, or maybe a little bit more unfamiliar with what hip hop can be. You know, that's not an intervention I would necessarily use with seniors, for example.
Mm-hmm.
But most people around my age and younger, they know about hip hop, or they want to explore it. And even if it's not something they want to take professionally, it's pretty fun to just try and write and go through the feelings of success and failure with rhyming.
Mm-hmm. That's
Mm-hmm.
really great. So I want to ask you about do you have like a goal that you reach with your clients? Like, how do you define what optimal health is? Like, is
Right.
that something that, you know, okay, we've reached it now, or is it something like that is continually ongoing? Do you continue to work with clients to a certain point, or are you like with them for life?
Right, for sure. I mean, there is, you know, there is, to be transparent, something about running a business in this capitalist world where it is, like, I got to say, you know, like, I would love for my clients, you know, the people that I serve, to keep returning for the rest of their lives, of course. But I think, you know, that's not really the service that we are trying to offer. I think a client that's more successful will be able to access our services if they need it. But I'm hoping that most people will feel empowered, that they'll reach a greater health when they have finished a session, even after just one or a couple, or after a year, or however long, 2 years, whatever it takes. If they can see that they're climbing and they feel responsible, um, then I believe that that's stronger than trying to retain clients and trying to make money, because I think those people will spread a word, and that word will catch on, and hopefully, you know, more people will be able to access not just our services, but other music therapists and other good therapists out there. And it seems the culture is kind of changing to be more accepting of therapy. So I guess there are a lot of good therapists out there doing good work, and we're hoping to be a part of that as well.
Right. Well, we mentioned the music industry. I'm wondering, how do you think somebody who works in the music industry could benefit from music?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I worked in the music industry before I did music therapy, in a pseudo professional sort of way. I was a guitar player, and I wanted to be a professional guitar player. And I think I tried my hardest. I think. And yeah, I had a little bit of success. You know, I got some gigs in Vancouver. I'm from an hour east, so I always thought playing in the city was so exciting. So, but you know, there was something about, you get to a point, I think, in your music practice where you start to see or find an avenue that, like, your favorite artist or some sort of culture around the music you love, there's there's a higher purpose for music. And I think in the music industry, it's also very much affected and inflicted by, you know, by capital, and by wanting to make money, and by, you know, the ego and trying to be famous, or even just trying to make a living, you know. And sometimes when you have that kind of relationship with something that you love so much, it becomes your medium of making an income. Sometimes it's nice to return to that place where you could be free in the music. You could push yourself to improvise if you're a classical musician, or you could push yourself more to compose if you don't have that kind of background. I feel like, you know, you'd want to probably find a music therapist that's able to support you if you're a strong musician. Because some music therapists are stronger therapists than they are musicians, and some music therapists are stronger musicians than they are therapists. So I think it's worth, you know, doing a little bit of research, finding someone who, I don't know, who you resonate with, and yeah, deciding for yourself if there's something about music that you might be missing. And, you know, it's never harmful to give a few sessions a try and just see if that's something that could actually improve your practice as a musician.
That's very true. Can you tell me what does a typical session with you entail?
Well, I guess there's a few formalities. I guess in the beginning, we got our intake forms and contracts, and we want like consents, and we want to make sure that people feel safe and that we're transparent about who we are and what we're doing and what confidentiality means. And it's also good to kind of share like a little bit of like how long a session, how long we could be together, or things that might change in the future, just kind of touching base. And I think that's a really good beginning to therapy, because you can start to build rapport, and just being with another person, it can be a little awkward at first. Sometimes it's like meeting someone new for the first time. But of course, I think myself and most therapists, there's a little bit of joy in meeting people for the first time and getting to know them. And the really cool thing about music therapy is that we've always got a mutual friend in the room. We both, there's a guitar or there's music around, so it's ever like, okay, like this might not be a familiar way for you to access help, but you know what, like we both love music, so let's start there.
That's really good advice. Just like you have something in common, so it's less awkward.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
So do you have like a favorite piece of advice that someone has ever given you, or any advice that you would like to share with people watching?
I think that, I think this word optimal health has come up a few times between us, and I think like health is different for a lot of different people. And I think one thing that really affected my how can I say it? The simplest thing that affected my understanding of health is I actually studied yoga in India for a few weeks, and I had a teacher that talked about these two things. It was equanimity and impermanence. And he would meditate on these two things. And at the time, I guess, like I didn't give them much attention, but I let those words sort of stick with me over the years. It's been a few years now. And I think they're right. Like happiness isn't forever. Sadness is not forever. And I mean, it's good to feel how you're feeling. But I think it's also like, it's not going to be like this for always. Change is almost definitely coming. And the more you can allow yourself to know and embrace that, then you can start to allow that kind of mindfulness practice to allow things to move through. And then equanimity, of course, is some things are good, some things are bad. We try to face it every day the same. And that's what I try to do anyways.
That's really good advice. Our CEO and founder has joined us. She says nothing is forever.
Absolutely.
That's so true. Okay, so I have one last question for you. I'm really interested in knowing, are there any misconceptions about music therapy that you'd like to debunk right here?
I mean, we all make a reputation for ourselves. I think one thing that comes up a lot in my practice, I mean, everyone as a music therapist has a different demographic that they will favor or work better with, or for whatever reason will find themselves working with a certain age group. And I think because of funding, because of a lot of the way our healthcare system is set up, we tend to get a lot of music therapists, tend to work with a lot of aging clients, in long-term care homes. We tend to get a lot of contracts or clients that are children. Maybe they have sponsorship from autism funding, government sources. And as an adult or as a teen, it doesn't really seem that there's as much, it's more inaccessible. We're not typically covered by a lot of insurance plans. So a lot of people will pay out of pocket or have to access different source of funding. And I think that this has sort of created a bit of a false sense of what music therapy can be and who we work with. So, of course, a lot of my family members will be like, oh, you're working with children, or you're working with, aging seniors, or yes, but, I do work with a lot of adults as well. So I think that's probably I'm sure every music therapist will have one thing to debunk, but that'll be my one thing for today.
You know, I definitely understand. It definitely is, music therapy is definitely something that I think should be more accessible and attainable, and something that people should, you know, know more about, especially somebody, you know, myself, who I think the pandemic made it where a lot of people are open to seeking therapy now, um, which is just something myself and my peers being forced to, you know, be inside, and everything is just so different, and anxiety now is at an all-time high amongst like everybody. So educating people on music therapy um is definitely necessary. So I just want to say thank you for all that you do, for all the clients that you serve and the people that you're helping. Do you have any last for our audience that you'd like to share?
Sorry, I didn't hear what you said. That the last part.
Do you
Any?
have any last words you'd like to share to our audience?
Yeah, you know, actually, as you were mentioning the way we are feeling, I mean, I guess I got to include myself in that group of people because myself included, and that's music therapists and all other therapists for that matter. We made it through the pandemic too. We got high anxiety too, and I will say, yeah, you know, like when the pandemic started up, like that was when I myself first seriously started doing therapy for myself. And so, you know, I'm an adult, and like I feel I had a lot of barriers up for myself in doing therapy, and I still do. But I'm trying to break those down. So it's my journey, and it's getting easier. And I'm inviting everyone else to start theirs or continue theirs wherever they're at with it.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I'm curious, do any of our viewers have any questions? Feel free to drop in the comments. I think you may be in the clear, but thank you for joining us today. I'm so happy you made time to sit and chat with us today. Um, Everybody who's following and watching, please follow Tyrone at People's Music Therapy. Thank you for joining, and we'll be in touch.
Thanks for having me. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.